We now come towards the closing part of Unit 4 under the optimal capital structure. And what we're trying to look here is, now that we've decided a firm has to go to the optimal capital structure, what kind of design the debt needs to have. How do you design A, what kind of firms are able to raise enough debt? And B, if you have capacity and the need to raise debt, what kind of debt should you go ahead and raise? How do you really justify what kind of debt has been raised, right? So that's what we are basically going to look at and understand how do we design the debt that comes across to us. The first thing that we need to answer is what are the determinants of a company's capital structure and the policy around that, right? So there are some key determinants of the capital structure of the firm, and we will try and understand them one by one. So there are four major determinants of the capital structure. The first one is the tax rate. Remember, tax gives you the debt gives you a tax benefit. So higher the tax rate, we did our calculation at a 30% rate. If the benefit was at a 40% or a 50%, higher the tax rate, higher the tax benefit, higher the debt firms will want to raise since the benefit is higher. So bigger the tax benefit that you get, bigger your chances of raising more debt, and consequently bigger debt equity ratios firms would be able to manage and have, because you would want to kind of optimize the benefits you get out of higher debt, right? The next bit that comes in is what happens to the cash flows. So companies with stable cash flows and companies with high cash flows or companies with growing cash flows find it easier to borrow more. And that's logical. If your cash flows are stable, if your cash flows are high, if your cash flows are growing, if you're in any of the industries which are known for their stability, for example, auto industry or FMCG industry in India, then you would have a capability or capacity to borrow more, and hence you will find it easier to reach to the optimal capital structure should a need around that arise, right? The third major determinant comes around the operating risk, right? To understand this, we need to understand the concept of high operating leverage. Firms which have high fixed cost will see bigger earnings volatility. Why is that? Let's take the example of a firm that has a sales of 100 and costs of 80. What is the earnings? 20. Now, if sales goes up to 120, remember it has a lot of fixed cost. So let's say cost remains fixed, all of the cost is fixed. Earnings go to 40. The change in sales is 20%, but the change in earnings is 100%. Correct? This kind of a firm is considered to have a higher fixed cost and hence what is called as a higher operating leverage. If the sales were to fall to 80, you will note that costs will remain the same, profits go to zero. So if the sales go down by minus 20%, profits go down by minus 100%. So earnings volatility is much bigger in firms with higher fixed cost structure or what is known as higher operating leverage. And in these kind of cases, firms will have lesser capacity to borrow money. They'll not be able to borrow too much because if there is a risk that comes up, you will probably end up in losses and then the chances of default increase. So these kind of firms typically will tend to have lower capacity to borrow. It's a different issue that some of these firms are already saddled with debt in real life, right? Finally, risk premiums. If risk premiums rise, what are risk premiums? Equity risk premium as well as risk premium of debt securities. Risk-free rate or government security is 7.0%. A company might be borrowing money at 8%. If the debt risk premium increases, this 8% might become 9%. Correct? That's the premium you were asking, that extra 1%. Now, if that premium increases, the firm will have to pay more. So essentially, if risk premiums rise, firms will be able to borrow lesser. So in an environment where risk premiums are rising, usually risk is also rising, and hence that's why risk premiums would be rising, right? So effectively, those firms will be able to borrow lesser. So what kind of firms will be able to borrow more? Those with higher tax rate, those with stable cash flows, those with low operating risk, and those operating in an environment of low risk premium. What kind of firms will be able to borrow less? Lower tax rates, lower stability in cash flows, high operating risk, and high risk premium firms will be able to borrow less debt. Right? So those are the key determinants of the capital structure of any firm. Now, once we have identified what these determinants are, the next case that comes to us is what is the right kind of debt that a firm should take, right? Now, while taking debt, it is important to keep in mind a lot of things. Remember, we have seen the concept of asset and liability mismatching somewhere. Now, the idea is that if your cash flows have a certain characteristic and you're funding a project or a set of cash flows using debt, then the debt should have similar characteristics. The characteristics of debt should be similar to the characteristics of cash flow, right? So this is what is the characteristic of debt, and that should be similar to the characteristics of the cash flows. If this does not happen, there is an enhanced risk that the firm faces. So how do you keep that same? How do you keep that similar? The first one is you have to match the duration, tenure, and currency and other features of the debt and the cash flows. So if your cash flow is in dollars, the debt has to be a dollar denominated debt because otherwise you run currency risk in the process. If the tenure of the cash flow and duration of the cash flow is, let's say, 7 years, then you would want to take a debt for that period because that's how long the project would run. So effectively, you want to match the life and other features of your project with the life and other features of your debt. Make sense? Otherwise, you run interest rate risk because of this, and you run currency risk because of this if you do not match these things. If a firm's cash flows are affected by changing inflation rates, right? Then basically they will be, inflation rates will change. Inflation rates change will bring about interest rate changes. And if the cash flows are affected by interest rate changes, you would want your debt outflows also to get affected by interest rate changes, right? So effectively, you would want to borrow floating rate debt in this context. Whether floating or fixed is going to depend on whether the cash flows are going to get impacted by the inflation and changes in interest rates across the spectrum of the across the range of the project that the firm has, right? So you could say that some of these are kind of other features itself, but basically we have divided them into 2 points, which is if the cash flows are affected by changing inflation, then you go ahead and look at taking floating rate debt. Debt may also have certain options embedded to counter cyclicality in businesses. So effectively, when you look at uh, the scenario of debt, the way debt works, uh, enhanced debt structures have what is called as an option. Option is a choice, for example. So there are some debt structures which has what is called as a put option, right? Now we've read elsewhere in terms of a put option. A put option means that you can put back the debt to the issuer, right? Bonds could have a call option where the issuer can choose to call the debt back and essentially kind of reissue it at a different interest rate. So those possibilities are embedded to counter any kind of cyclicality in business, and in a lot of the cases, cyclicality in interest rates as well can get countered by that, right? Finally, debt needs to keep analysts, rating agencies, and regulators happy. What does that mean? Typically, rating agencies want you to have less debt and more equity because they are more concerned about how easily you can repay the money. Correct? Analysts, on the other hand, do not want you to raise equity because that results in dilution. So they want you to have more debt, right? And take more risk with that debt. Regulators want you to maintain a certain kind of debt equity structure so that the notion or the very existence of the firm does not come under any kind of scrutiny, right? So effectively, debt that a company raises should try and keep the rating agencies, regulators, and analysts happy. In real life, however, it is not so easy to know what kind of debt would keep whom happy, right? And essentially, if you can keep all the three happy, then that's like the ideal case that a company would want to find, where they have just gotten the exactly good kind of debt which keeps everyone happy, and they've matched all the other parameters as well. So remember, if you're asked about what kind of debt a company should take for a project that they are taking in Eurozone, they should match the currency first. Then, what kind of cash flows are expected? They should match the duration and tenure around that. If inflation impacts it, what kind of debt should you issue? Floating or fixed rate? That decision point comes here. Does your debt require to have some sort of an option embedded? Do you want to call back your debt? Do you want to give the choice to the investors to put your debt? Correct? Those options may get embedded into a debt. And then the debt that you raise needs to keep all sorts of stakeholders who are evaluating your company happy as well, right? Let's very quickly try and gauge what kind of debt Apollo Tyres has. So if you look at the consolidated balance sheet and the long-term borrowings B3, we can go and check in the note B3 that they would have a variety of debts that they would have raised, and they would typically be matching some sort of a project that they're looking at, right? So you will see there is some sort of a structure in debt which is a non-convertible debt, which it cannot be converted to equity at a 9.4% number. Then you have external commercial borrowings because they've taken foreign currency loans. Now, probably they have taken foreign currency loans because they want to fund projects that are in those currencies. Probably they were trying to play out with a lower interest rate scenario on some of these loans. We don't know that as of now, but at least that is something that we should keep an eye on when we are looking at these debt structures, right? Look at the kind of debt structures that they have. They effectively have debt at 9.4, 10.15, 11.5%, and these are all debentures that they've issued in terms of their own loans. And if you look at the structure of the debt in the notes to accounts, you have a bullet repayment, which means one single repayment that is going to happen on this date, bullet repayment on a certain date, and repayment in three equal installments. This is essentially this scenario of when the repayment is happening is based on how the projects that are there. Ideally, the firm should look at taking the debt for a particular project, and based on when the project materializes is when the repayment should come in. Correct? Similarly, if you look at external commercial borrowings, they would have mentioned what is the bank, what is the loan, and what kind of currency do they have the loan in, right? So what is the rate of interest, and then USD 1.5 million, 1.25 million, 2.5 million, what kind of installments are there, and when does the repayment start? They have written all of this, which basically tells us or gives us an idea that they have matched the debt, or they seem to have matched the debt to some sort of projects that have been there. Correct? You see a lot of different rates of interest. You have monthly payment till a certain period, monthly payment here. Usually, when the firm raises a debt, they would raise a debt based on project requirement, and that's what we have exactly seen, that for every firm, you will see this structure. So as an exercise, try and look at your firm, try and look at what kind of debt do they have, and try and see if that debt that has come in has come for specific projects and what kind of repayment structures have come in. So if you figure out that there is some sort of a new capex that the company has done, and they say that they have raised, let's say, some money for that, we can go behind and check if they've given any details about the repayment schedule, and does that broadly match the description of the capex schedule, right? Try and do that as an exercise for your company. It's not necessary that all companies give this data. So if we get it, great, right? That's it in this particular unit. That's it in this particular discussion section of applied corporate finance. There's an important area because companies would want to reach an optimal capital structure, all other things being equal. And ideally, it's good for us to be able to analyze what that optimal capital structure would be, right? As we end this particular section, couple of questions. How do we identify the right kind of debt? And what kind of firms will have lower capacity to raise debt? Thank you.